Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Darkhold, issue number 1. I think somebody's playing a joke on us. This was not a good book. This is not a good anything, man. This is a good waste of time and money. I'm telling you that right now. Let's get talking about who made this comic book, and we'll put it together from there. And yeah, not going to be a very happy review. So Steve Orlando is the writer, Cian Tormey is the artist, Jesus Abertov does the color art, and VC's Clayton Cowles on letters and production. This is Darkhold Alpha #1, by the way. Greg Smallwood does the cover, a couple of variant covers, because of course there are. And yeah, of course this book takes place before X-Men Trial of Magneto. I'm glad they at least did that. That was probably the best part of this whole book. Besides, I joke. The art on this was fantastic. I really liked it, but it didn't mean anything. It's a perfect waste of really good artists. Let's look at it that way. Look, this Darkhold Alpha issue #1. So Doctor Doom finds the Darkhold. We don't know why he was looking at it, except that, well, he's Doom. We don't know why he was looking for it. He finds it, though, and all of a sudden the Scarlet Witch is summoned, right? A portent, a dream. She comes and she finds Dr. Doom's like, oh, how dare you? And there's a back and forth thing, and they're, rawr. And of all the people trying to talk sense into someone, it's Scarlet Witch trying to talk sense into someone. Isn't she the crazy one? Isn't she the one? I mean, this isn't WandaVision. God damn it, this is the comic books. The person who has been possessed multiple times by Chthon, specifically. The crazy one who's done all sorts of crazy antics all throughout, right? Is she the one who basically castrated Simon Williams? Yeah, that was her. And she's the one who's always being berated by Doctor Strange. That's her. And she's here trying to talk sense to people. Come on, man. Right there, you lost me. Right there, you lost me. Unbridled power, no idea how to use it. That is who Scarlet Witch is. And that's that. That's it. You develop the character from there. But there's no character development here. In fact, there's character regression. So look, there's some kind of prophecy I don't know where this even comes from. Some kind of prophecy born and that nobody's ever heard of before. And there's 5 heroes who were supposed to go in and stop freaking Knucklehead Chthon from his rule of power and terror. And they do, but it's at the cost of their sanity, so And Dr. Doom's like, whatever, there'll be no 5, there'll be no gathering of the heroes. I'm going to go and I'm going to take care of Chthon myself. What is the goal here? Why is Doom doing I could feel somebody being told, you're going to portray Dr. Doom in this. I'm casting you to be Dr. Doom. And I just want the entire set to be one person screaming into a megaphone, what's my motivation? Because there's no motivation for anybody to do anything in this comic book at all. There was no motivation for me to read further except to see what an absolute hot mess dumpster fire this was. I burnt my fingers at how horrible this comic book was. Art was good. I digress. Dude, there was no reason for anything in this comic book to happen. In fact, it's the antithesis of reason. Scarlet Witch, when Doom goes off to, of course, triumphantly take on freaking Chthon and Elder God, he had no plan going in. Even though at one point Iron Man goes and says, well, Doom, it's not like you to go into something without a plan. So what was your plan? Are we going to find something out? Is there going to be some great reveal at the end in the Omega book? Maybe, but I seriously doubt it. I genuinely doubt it. Dude, there was so much bad in this comic book. I must focus to put it all together. Doom comes back, and while he's been away, Victorious is there with her mask on, so the whole cheating thing happened. She's sitting there telling Scarlet Witch, you were never worthy and Doom scorned you. Bitch, didn't that just happen to you? in the Fantastic Four? Isn't that why you're wearing a mask also? Right? Don't. Just, you know what? Just don't. Okay? We don't need to hear from you. You just go sit in the goddamn corner. And she pretty much does. She just stands there with her staff every so often. I have the power cosmic. I'm going to stand here and be a good little statue. Well, good job. Good job. Scarlet Witch goes and calls 5 heroes. All right, there's the fool, there's the stoic, there's the artist, or whatever the hell these people are. There's a couple different people. All right, you got to pull together. Black Bolt is the stoic. Guy doesn't talk, so that makes him a stoic. Okay, sure, he's stoic-ish. You know what I'm saying? Karnak would have been a better stoic. Got a better idea for who a stoic would be. More on that later. Spider-Man is the fool. Can we decide who Spider-Man is at some point? Because you could have said Deadpool and nobody would have argued with that. Spider-Man, people would be like, I mean, this isn't 1970s Spider-Man here. Like, what are you doing? You know, like he's the fool? What? So no, I didn't buy that at all. The artist Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, the original Wasp, gets called up because, you know, she, just like Sue Storm, just like most of the women back in the early days of Marvel, they were all models and designed women's fashion. Yeah. So that's why they called Janet Van Dyne, because she's an artist. Okay, sure. I mean, you could have said Captain America because he's actually an artist. There's plenty of other people you could do. You wanted Janet Van Dyne, that's fine. You know, you need the token female for it. You need the token black guy too, so they called Blade. Blade got pulled in for this. Come on, man. Blade. So, I forget what he was, but I looked at it and I laughed. I'm like, come on. Like, you're really stretching this stuff. So, they're all just like, you know, hey, we gotta... Oh, the Dreamer was Tony Stark. So, Iron Man. Come on. Reed Richards would have been a better Dreamer. You could have just had the Fantastic Four for this, right? The Stoic is freaking... How cool would that have been? We need 5 heroes, so let's get the Fantastic Four. Who would be the other one? I got an idea for that. Bring them together and Doom comes back and he's all sorts of jacked up. I talk all the time about show, don't tell, right? Dr. Doom comes back and you've got Cian Tormey and Jesus Abertov, 2 fantastic artists here, and they draw Doom truly jacked up. And yet Steve Orlando still, in his infinite wisdom, apparently, and I'm going to be really critical. I don't know Steve Orlando. He might be the greatest guy in the world. But as a writer, Homeslice needs to go back to writing school or whatever the hell he needs to do. This was a wretched work. You have 2 great artists who just draw Doom jacked up. This dude was roasted. He was like smoking. His armor was ripped apart and everything. And Orlando still felt the need to have Iron Man go up and say, your armor is at critical failure stage. Yeah, fucking moron. Duh! I can see it! You literally have these fantastic artists there, and you felt the need to write that in? Your hand went... That was so ridiculous. I swear to God, I'm losing my mind over how stupid that was. Wait, let's take it a step further. You have these great artists who are waiting to unleash their skills on the world. And you give them this. Doom is going to give a little bit of a story of when he went over there and what he saw and how he got jacked up. So he's giving a little bit of the story and a bit of a flashback that just happened in the span of a couple of moments, right? And then he just stops and says, but this is a story for Doom alone to know. Which in and of itself is just goddamn stupid. Why wouldn't he just say that in the beginning? Right? Instead of saying what did he say? The crumpled wastelands or the putrid wasteland, whatever. He said something about how horrible the place was. It's a comic book. I can see that. I can see the place was wrecked up into all those different places. And he decides he needs to write that. The fuck is the matter with you? Who the hell let this guy write a comic book? He doesn't know how to write. Period. Hey, this wouldn't work in a novel. And he's going to do this in a comic book where there are pictures. There are pictures, and he's still telling us what we can see plainly. I don't understand what the hell I'm looking at here. I don't understand why this comic book was made. Plot. Let's do a plot-driven story where everybody just conveniently comes together. Already, you got the psychopathic Scarlet Witch who nobody trusts, but everybody just trusts them with their life. Here's this flesh-bound book created by an elder god with the flesh of an elder god to bind a book of his notes of this pure evil that will drive anybody insane. I need you to read a little bit of it. Good. And Scarlet Witch is telling me to do this. I'd be like, Bish, please. Walk the hell out of there. I would walk my ass out of there so quick, you can kiss my ass. You could choose left cheek, right cheek. My suggestion, aim right for the middle. It's the best experience. Trust me. Just like I trust you. Not at all. Who the hell is going to listen to the Scarlet goddamn Witch? I want you to read something that's going to drive you insane. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen. There's so much wrong with this comic book. After Doom says more horrible writing and what you're telling people to do, after you have Doom say, that's for Doom alone to know. Basically, I ain't telling you jack, sucker. You've got the 5 here plus Scarlet Witch. The 5, people plus Scarlet Witch stand there, and they're all striking a pose. Blade feels need to rise his katana. And, raise his katana. Spider-Man's like, whoa! Right? Iron Man, oh! Getting ready to, repulsor blast people. Everybody's ready. They're all striking a pose of, Doom just said a word. And everybody jumps at the ready to whoop some ass. Defend themselves. Dude was just talking. What do you... This is what you got people doing. Everything is just a bunch of pictures of the people looking at each other. Everything. You had great artists being told, basically just have everybody look at each other. Doom's going to be talking to Scarlet Witch, so have those two on the panel talking. At this point, the discussion's going to get heated. At this point, it's going to be Doom walking away, so have Doom, walking away. I mean, like, what are you giving me to work with here? I wouldn't know what the hell to draw. Zero direction. There was zero direction for the artists. Why didn't you have just 2 gimps off the street doing the art in this book? Because that's pretty much what you did with the writing. Waste. I would hate to waste my life over a paycheck, to be unhappy for a paycheck. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Seeing Tormey and Jesus Abertov were working their ass off on this one. God, this is the most pathetic thing. This is one of the reasons why I just don't read as many comic books as I usually read. I'm sure Steve Orlando is a great guy, rescues puppies and kids from burning buildings and is a loving husband or whatever. Don't know, don't care. I'm not here to talk about that stuff. This guy is a terrible writer. This is a guy who I've seen so many times he's tried to write in DC, and I see his name and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done giving this a shot. I saw Darkhold. I said, let me check what's up. And I'm the stupid one, because I didn't bother to take a look at who was writing, because I promise you, if I was half as smart as I think I am, and I'm clicking around on Comixology, I want to read a comic book. I want to talk about a comic book that's out, recently. That's what I want to do. So stupid ass me, I'm like, oh, Darkhold. I know the history of the Darkhold. I've read lots and lots and lots of Doctor Strange books and all sorts of other books that have the Darkhold in it. I have a plethora of Darkhold knowledge. This could be fun. I swear to God, if I would have saw Steve Orlando's name on it, I know that this book would have been bad. Because that is a name that is synonymous in my mind with horrible writing. Someone who's probably got a pretty good imagination, but does not know how to put it on paper. Guys, I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm probably a horrible writer also. It's the reason why I struggle with it every time I sit and try to write. Because I am a freaking awesome storyteller. I do Dungeons and Dragons games, face rip games, any kind of freaking game you want, a Vampire the Masquerade game. You put me on a game, I will run a game, boom. I'll sit there, I'll tell stories. I tell stories to my kids all the time. I'll put these stories down and be like, boom, 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 boom. I'm a storyteller. I'm telling you a story right now. But actually writing is a little bit different. That's much, much harder to do. So I'm not sitting here saying Steve Orlando is a horrible person, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling him, dude needs to recognize that he needs to work on his craft because his craft sucks. Coming from another person who is at least brilliant enough to recognize that my own craft sucks. I'm not saying anything about this guy's work that I won't say about my own work. My work sucks. Do you know how many incredible stories I've got in my head, sketched down on... I must have 40 freaking notebooks just in this room alone of started works that I haven't finished because I suck at writing. And I don't put my ass on a comic book in a major comic book company, the biggest comic book company, where eventually some of the stuff is going to be made into movies. I don't do that because I actually like you people. Why would I want to doo-doo on your plate? Why would I want to make a poo-poo in a comic book that you're about to open up and be like, hey, is this Professor Bill's poo? Because you just opened up a book of Steve Orlando's poo. And it's just like, doesn't it smell good? No. It's doo-doo. Intrinsically. In its very nature, it doesn't smell good. It's dookie. And that's what this is. How could you make this story better? How would I make this story better? Taking this, if I was co-writing or asked, what would you do about this? Sure. Use the Fantastic Four. You got all those characters that were talked about on here. Every single one of those characters. Boom, right there. Who's the fifth person? How about Doom? Instead of making Doom some generic bad guy, which every bad writer continuously does, how about instead you make it so there's a little bit of character progression? Oh my God, imagine that in a comic book. No. Yes. Doom has to learn a valuable lesson. And everybody has to learn something about themselves. Why isn't Tony Stark the fool? If you're going to use these 5 characters, how come Tony Stark isn't the fool? Right? The guy's the biggest freaking jackass out there. Super smart. No wisdom. 0 wisdom. A fool doesn't mean you're unintelligent. Spider-Man's considered the fool on here. He's one of the top 20 smartest people in the Marvel Universe. Dude's a chemistry whiz. Could you make web shooters? I didn't think so. Dude knows what he's doing. A fool isn't a measure of your intelligence. It's a measure of your wisdom. How fast do you learn? Do you not learn things? Can you make a mistake, turn around, and walk back into the same damn wall again? And that's Tony Stark. Constantly screwed up. This Tony Stark is very reflective. Yes, I know a thing about demons. Every time that I smell alcohol or blah, 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 I know. Doom, it's not like you to do such and such. Tony didn't make one wisecrack. Tony didn't crack a wry smile. Tony didn't insult someone openly, but in an insidious way, almost insidious way, that would make people be like, yo, did he just... And then somebody else jumps in. It's like, okay, we can't be doing such and so. We can't be wasting your time with this nonsense. All right, let's just move on and blah, 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 blah. Nobody had to say, enough, Tony. Nobody, like, I don't know who that guy was in the Iron Man suit. Is this like when Rhodey took over? Because I liked those days. Those were good days, right? Wasp is in here. Wasp knows Wanda better than most people. Hey, who was the one who accidentally set her off with the Avengers Disassembled, leading into House of M and all that stuff? Yeah, that was Janet. That was Wasp. I mean, you know what I'm talking about with the kids. Oh, I mean, I didn't mean. Oops, sorry, my bad. Bendis. I don't think Brian Michael Bendis likes the Wasp very much. But anyway. Dude, and she was at, I just mentioned that, what do you call it? What's her name? Wanda castrated Simon Williams, Wonder Man. Castrated him. Jim Byrne, the last Jim Byrne comic book that he did in West Coast Avengers. Guess who was standing right there? I think it was right next to him, in fact. Wasp. She was there. She watched her right there. Bruh. And that was when Chthon was controlling her again. She knows what's up. Dude, Wanda summons you, tells you that Chthon is doing something and blah, 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 blah. You don't trust this girl. You don't trust her any farther than you could throw her. I cannot suggest trying to throw the Scarlet Witch. Bro, this was everything about this book. The Fool. You want to have some real fun with this? You know, you could also make Doctor Strange or Doctor Doom the Fool. Sounds crazy, right? You can make Doctor Doom the Fool. He could have been the Stoic. He could have been the Fool, right? Actually, you can make what's her name, Victorious the Stoic, but you can make Doctor Doom the Fool. Think about the tarot card, the Fool, upright, not inverted, upright. A vagabond, a drifter, a nomad, a gypsy. So much you could have done with this. So much character growth and development that you could potentially see through this. All this is basically a redo with a different title of the doppelgangers from Inferno and Infinity War and whatever it wasn't Infinity Gauntlet. Well, it could have been Infinity Gauntlet. Must have been like the Infinity War and Infinity Crusade. They had the doppelgangers running around, right? All this crazy stuff. It's just that. It's just they were turned into doppelgangers of some sort or Marvel zombie versions of themselves. And they're evil. There's going to be a one-shot of each of those 5 characters in a book. And then there's going to be the return of this book, but the Omega, where they solve everything. Do you think there's going to be any character development, any character growth, any self-realization, any self-actualization, any progression for a story plot, anything at all, except a bunch of pieces of paper that could have been a better comic book than this? This is terrible. Terrible. At some point, you've got to realize your weaknesses and sit back and say, but you know, I honestly, I swear to God, there's some mysteries I wish I understood, right? And that's actually why the Darkhold drives you crazy. Read a little bit, just a little bit, boom, boom, boom. But the problem is you start reading something that's confusing. What's natural in a human being? Well, I want to read more. I got to read just a little bit just so that this makes sense. But when insanity makes sense, it's almost like Moon Knight should have been one of the characters in this book. There are hundreds, maybe thousands. There are hundreds of ideas that are better than this. This is really nice art on paper. And there's some words written. But I think that this book, I think that all seven of these books, all of these books, that this is the true Darkhold. because maybe you want to read a little bit further and see, is it going to be any good? But it's going to drive you insane. That's what's going to happen. It's the Necronomicon. Yeah. Me no likey. Me no likey this. This was piss poor, terrible. And I have no problem saying that. I hope nobody's offended by this, including Steve Orlando if he happens by this particular review. Like I said, this is not meant to be a personal attack. This is a very obvious observation that this was terrible. And sometimes when you got Marvel, like a big company like Marvel, patting you on the back, and you got people who still continue to hire you because it's like it's a compadre thing, it's a friendship thing. Oh, you're one of the boys. Come on in. I'm not saying boys club as in males. I'm saying, yeah, we know you. Come back. If Anna Senti said, I want to come back, nobody'd be like, are you ready to come back? They'd be like, jump right into the pilot seat. Well, I might be a little rusty. No, not you. Go ahead. Go do what you got. No. Ring rust is a real thing. But it's a boys club. It's a friendship thing. The three amigos, but times however many people need to be in it. It's always about hiring your friends. It's always about that. There needs to be quality control, and I'm talking about quality of the people actually doing the work sometimes. This was horrible. This was horrible. And that's just all there is to it. If Steve Orlando was not a big name, if they said, hey, you just wrote a book, I'd like to see what you could do in a book. And if they took a look at this, they would look at this, and I believe genuinely, if they didn't know who the guy was, they'd be like, this is really, really bad, bro. Can't put this out there. Sorry. Whether they're going to pay him or not, he deserves to get paid if he did the work. But stuff like this shouldn't be published. And I'm pretty much done. Guys, like the video, watch an ad, and I'll talk to you all later. Professor Bell, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.